The darkness whispers secrets that should never be heard. Tonight something sinister crawls through the training halls of Seoul's most elite demon hunting academy. You thought you knew the rules of this game, but everything you believed about loyalty and friendship is about to shatter into 1,000 pieces. What happens when jealousy becomes a weapon sharper than any blade? When trust transforms into the deadliest poison? The answer lies buried in shadows deeper than you can imagine. And by the end of this story, someone's world will never be the same again. My name is Chronicler of the Unseen Battles, and for the past 5 years, I've been documenting the hidden wars that rage between light and darkness. These aren't fairy tales or fantasy stories. These are the real accounts of young warriors who sacrifice everything to protect a world that doesn't even know they exist. Tonight, I'm going to reveal the most shocking betrayal I've ever witnessed. And trust me, you're not prepared for what's coming. The Seoul Supernatural Defense Academy stands like a fortress against the night, its towers piercing the sky like silver daggers. Inside these walls, the most gifted students train relentlessly to become humanity's shield against demonic forces. But tonight, the greatest threat doesn't come from the monsters lurking in the shadows. It comes from within. Mira has always been the perfect student, top of her class in combat techniques, flawless in her demon identification tests, and absolutely ruthless when it comes to protecting her teammates. Everyone trusts her. Everyone believes in her. Everyone thinks they know who she really is. But what if I told you that behind those innocent eyes lies a plan so twisted, so carefully orchestrated, that it makes the demons she fights look like children playing dress-up? Here's what nobody saw coming. While everyone was focused on the external threats, while the instructors were busy preparing students for the battles ahead, Mira was studying something entirely different. She wasn't just learning how to fight demons, she was learning how to become one. The first sign appeared 3 weeks ago during a routine training exercise. Jinu, the academy's rising star, and Mira's closest friend, noticed something strange about her fighting style. Her movements had become too fluid, too predatory. When she struck down practice dummies, there was a hunger in her eyes that hadn't been there before, but Jinu brushed it off as dedication. After all, they were training to face monsters. Sometimes you have to embrace a little darkness to fight the real darkness, right? Wrong. So completely, devastatingly wrong. What Jinu didn't know was that Mira had been making midnight visits to the Forbidden Archives. Deep beneath the academy, in chambers that even the instructors rarely entered, ancient texts describe rituals that blur the line between hunter and hunted. These weren't instruction manuals for fighting demons. They were recipes for becoming something far worse. But here's where the story gets really twisted. Mira wasn't doing this alone. She had help from someone nobody suspected, someone whose betrayal cuts deeper than any blade ever could. The question isn't just what Mira is planning. The question is who else is involved, and how long have they been planning this together? Enter Abby, whose world is about to explode in ways she never imagined. Abby has always lived in the shadows of greatness. While Jinu excelled in combat and Mira dominated the academic side, Abby struggled to find her place. She's talented, sure, but not exceptional. She's loyal, absolutely, but not irreplaceable. And that kind of position, that constant feeling of being almost enough but never quite special, does something dangerous to a person's heart. Jealousy is like a poison that spreads slowly through your veins. At first you barely notice it, a small sting when someone else gets praised. A tiny twist in your stomach when your friends achieve something you haven't. But left unchecked, jealousy transforms into something monstrous. It whispers lies that sound like truth. It convinces you that you deserve better, that others don't deserve what they have, that taking what you want is justified because life has been unfair to you. Abby's jealousy didn't happen overnight. It built slowly, fed by every small disappointment, every moment when she felt overlooked or undervalued. When Jinu received the special commendation for his demon tracking abilities, Abby smiled and congratulated him. But inside, something dark took root. When Mira was chosen to represent their class at the inter-academy competition, Abby cheered louder than anyone, but that darkness grew stronger. The breaking point came during last month's field assignment. The three of them were sent to investigate strange energy readings in the old district, a routine mission that should have been straightforward. But when they encountered an actual demon, something unexpected happened. Jinu and Mira worked together with perfect synchronization, their attacks flowing seamlessly from one to the next. They didn't just defeat the demon, they made it look effortless. And Abby? Abby froze. For just 3 seconds she hesitated, and in those 3 seconds she became a liability instead of an asset. Jinu had to break formation to protect her. Mira had to adjust her attack pattern to compensate for Abby's mistake. They completed the mission successfully, and neither of them said a word about what happened. But Abby knew. She felt their silent disappointment like a weight crushing her chest. That night, as she lay in her dormitory bed listening to her roommates sleep, Abby made a decision that would change everything. She decided she was tired of being the weak link. She decided she deserved better than being an afterthought in someone else's story. And most dangerously of all, she decided that if she couldn't earn her place through excellence, maybe she could claim it through other means. What Abby didn't realize was that Mira had been watching her, studying her, waiting for exactly this kind of moment. Because you see, Mira's plan required someone desperate enough to cross lines they never thought they'd cross, someone whose judgment would be clouded by emotion, someone who could be manipulated into becoming the perfect weapon. The pieces are moving into position, and none of our heroes see the trap closing around them. Jinu continues training, believing his biggest concern is the upcoming demon hunting certification exam. Abby plots in the shadows, convinced she's finally taking control of her destiny. And Mira? Mira weaves her web tighter with each passing day, knowing that soon, very soon, everything will fall into place exactly as she planned. But here's what none of them know. The darkness Mira has been courting isn't just interested in one student's ambition. It's hungry for something much bigger, something that could tear apart everything the Academy stands for. The corruption spreads like wildfire through the Academy's foundation, but nobody realizes the building is already burning. While the instructors focus on their lesson plans and the students worry about their upcoming exams, something ancient and hungry has been invited inside. And the invitation came from the last person anyone would suspect. Here's what makes this betrayal so perfect, so absolutely devastating. Mira didn't just decide one day to turn against everything she'd sworn to protect. No, this has been years in the making. Every friendship she built, every trust she earned, every moment of loyalty she demonstrated was all part of a larger design. She's been playing a game while everyone else thought they were just living their lives. The Forbidden Archives hold more than just ancient knowledge. Deep in those dusty chambers, past the warnings carved into stone and the seals that were meant to keep certain things locked away forever, Mira discovered something that changed her understanding of everything. The demons they're trained to fight aren't invaders from some distant realm. They're prisoners, and humanity isn't their protector. Humanity is their jailer. This revelation shattered every belief Mira held about her purpose, her mission, her entire reason for existing. But instead of breaking her, it transformed her into something far more dangerous than any demon she'd ever faced, because now she had a cause worth betraying everything for. Now she had a reason to tear down the walls that kept the truth hidden from the world. The ritual she's been preparing requires 3 components, and she's been collecting them methodically. The first was knowledge, which she gathered from those forbidden texts during her midnight expeditions. The second was power, which she's been siphoning from the Academy's own protective barriers through techniques that would horrify her instructors if they knew. But the third component is the most crucial and the most personal. She needs sacrifice, not just any sacrifice, but the willing betrayal of someone she cares about. That's where Abby comes in, though Abby doesn't realize she's being positioned as the final piece of Mira's puzzle. Every conversation Mira has with her, every moment of understanding and sympathy she shows, every time she validates Abby's feelings of inadequacy and resentment, she's slowly molding Abby into the weapon she needs. The manipulation is so subtle, so perfectly crafted, that Abby believes every destructive thought is her own idea. When Mira suggests that maybe Jinu gets special treatment because of his family connections, Abby nods and agrees. When Mira mentions how unfair it is that some students seem to have natural advantages, while others have to struggle for every small victory, Abby feels understood for the first time in months. And when Mira carefully plants the idea that maybe the academy's system is flawed, that maybe the instructors don't really care about students like them, Abby's resentment crystallizes into something harder and more dangerous. But Mira's greatest manipulation isn't what she says, it's what she doesn't say. She never directly suggests that Abby should act on these feelings. She never explicitly encourages rebellion or betrayal. Instead, she creates the perfect conditions for Abby to convince herself that extreme actions are not only justified, but necessary. The plan reaches its next phase during the Lunar Festival, when the Academy's protective barriers are traditionally renewed in a ceremony that dates back centuries. This annual ritual requires the combined energy of the Academy's most promising students, channeled through ancient focal points scattered throughout the campus. It's considered the highest honour to be chosen as one of the energy conduits, and this year, both Jinu and Mira have been selected. Abby wasn't chosen, of course. She stands with the other students, watching as her friends take their positions at the focal points, knowing that once again she's relegated to observer status while others get to be part of something important. The bitter taste of exclusion fills her mouth as she watches Jinu and Mira prepare for the ceremony. Their faces serious with the weight of responsibility she'll never be trusted to carry. What Abby doesn't know is that Mira specifically ensured she wouldn't be chosen for this ceremony. Through carefully planted suggestions and subtle undermining of Abby's recent performance evaluations, Mira made certain that Abby would be standing on the sidelines, watching, resenting, and ready to be pushed over the edge. As the ceremony begins and mystical energy starts flowing through the focal points, Mira makes her move. But it's not the move anyone expects. Instead of disrupting the ritual from within, she begins redirecting the energy flow through pathways she secretly carved into the Academy's foundations over the past months. The protective barriers don't just weaken, they invert, becoming a summoning circle that spans the entire campus. The first sign that something's gone wrong comes when the ceremonial flames turn from gold to deep crimson. The instructors exchange worried glances, but before they can react, the temperature in the Great Hall drops 20 degrees in an instant. Frost begins forming on the windows, and every student's breath becomes visible in the suddenly frigid air. The truth has been revealed, but the real battle is just beginning. Mira's web of deception has ensnared everyone she once called friend, and Abby's jealousy has become the key that unlocks a darkness beyond imagination. The Academy's walls are crumbling, trust has been shattered, and the very foundations of everything these warriors believed in lie in ruins. What happens next will determine not just the fate of 3 students, but the future of humanity itself.